Hello everyone, welcome to another color review. Thank you guys for being patient with me with the music, hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be talking about green today, specifically green from the set of Amonkhet. And I'm pretty excited for this. Hello again, Sharda. Yes, hello. Um, and yeah, I'm pretty excited for this because one big thing that us arena players are lacking is access to efficient ramp spells. And I know that we might not be able to find all of the green ramp that we like. And some of the green ramp is actually going to come in multicolored under Spring to Mind. But I still want to, take a look at green, see if there's any good ramp that we can use that doesn't involve Drover the Mighty and having to use dinosaurs. So let's take a look at that, and yeah, without further ado, let's hop right into it. Okay, Benefaction of Ronus, 2 and a green, sorcery. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card and/or an enchantment card from among them into your hand. Put the rest into your graveyard. So what are you looking for with this card? I think if you're running a creature-based deck, this card's kind of bad. Because you're having to spend 3 mana to essentially find a creature. But say you're running an enchantment deck, and there's an enchantment we're going to be talking about later called Sandworm Convergence. Is this card good enough for that? Even then, I don't think so. I did try this card out with, what is it called? The Empty Throne, Sigil of the Empty Throne, I think it's called. It's an enchantment called Sigil of the Empty Throne. I believe it might be called something else. But, yeah, even when I tried it in that deck, I wasn't too impressed. You want to get both an enchantment and creature, hopefully throw something you want to get back from graveyard. That sounds like a lot of different splashing in one deck. Creatures, big enchantments, or just, I guess it doesn't have to be a big enchantment. Like, it could be a Cartouche of Strength. But I'm not too high on this card. I realize you can make a graveyard is fun deck with it, but doesn't seem to be rather appealing. Okay. Bitterblade Warrior, 1 and a green. You may exert Bitterblade Warrior as it attacks. When you do, it gains +1/+0 and gains Death Touch until end of turn. This isn't actually that bad. If you think of the cards that we have in Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan for 2 mana, this card might actually be better than most of them. Because Drover, while it's better than Bitterblade Warrior, can only really shine in a dinosaur deck. There's not too many good green creatures that we have for 2 CMC, and I'm just going to quickly take a look at some of them to illustrate that. So Deeproot Champion only really goes, these only go in Merfolk deck typically. I guess Deeproot Warrior doesn't have to go in a Merfolk deck, but that card's kind of meh. But my point is, there's not too many. I guess you could go Wild Growth Walker as a 2 mana creature. And I'm not saying Bitterblade Warrior is great, but I'm saying that the competition isn't that high right now for 2 mana creatures. Like, there's not too many good ones that we have access to in Ixalan or Rivals of Ixalan, unless you're going for a specific tribe or something, or a specific Explore deck. So I wouldn't write this card off as awful because of that. That being said, I don't think it's a very good card. I'm not gonna be super ecstatic to throw Bitterblade Warrior in my in whatever deck I'm going for. In fact, I'll probably be a little bit bitter about it. But no, I wouldn't write it off as awful. Depending on what we have access to for 2 CMC, this card might actually make the cut for some people. Because we don't have a massive card pool, and we're going to have to run some awkward cards as a result of that. Okay, Cartouche of Strength. 2 and a green. When Cartouche of Strength enters the battlefield, you may have enchanted creature fight target creature an opponent controls. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has trample. So the card that this actually competes with, and I'm sure you guys are going to know before I even pull it up, because it is a very popular card in the arena meta. And as soon as I can find it, I can show you it. Let's see. Savage Stomp. Okay. So this card competes with Savage Stomp, and I know that you can run a trial to get the cartouche back. I understand that. I'm not a huge fan of trial cartouche decks. I know that some of them are good. Most of them, in my opinion, are bad. And I think Savage Stomp outperforms cartouche, generally speaking. Obviously, you need to be running dinosaurs, though, so it does kind of depend on the deck. One thing that Savage Stomp does not do is give the creature trample, which Cartouche does, so that's kind of cool. Like, imagine if your Ripjaw Raptors could have trample. That would be fun. Okay, Champion of Ronus, 3 and a green. You may exert Champion of Ronus as it attacks. When you do, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. This card's weird, and I generally don't like it, but I've always wondered, like, what if I do run Zakama? What if I do run, you know, Polyraptor? Does Champion Aronis help that strategy? He has 3 toughness, so he's not the easiest thing to kill. Like, you need to at least have Lightning Strike. Baffling End won't do it. Moment of Craving won't do it. Vraska's Contempt, like if my Champion of Ronus can eat a Vraska's Contempt, then I'm feeling good about myself. You can't Fatal Push it. And I know the card is kind of janky, I get it, but at the same time, I think this card might have potential. I feel like maybe, just maybe, I can run a Zakama Champion of Ronus kind of deck and get away with it. Like, other than Lightning Strike, there's not too many removal spells that are just going to punish you for that. Like, Settle the Wreckage won't do it because you're going to exert before Settle hits you. Yeah, I'm surprised that I'm even saying this because I was pretty dismissive of this card in duels. I think in duels we do have better answers for it. We have Grasp of Darkness, we have Fatal Push. There's definitely easier ways to kill it. We have Harness Lightning. Lightning Strike is the best card for this. If you can Lightning Strike a Champion of Ronus, you're doing great. But if you don't have that, then he might actually get a Zakama out, and that's kind of scary. Yeah, I'm surprised I'm saying it, but I'm not opposed to running Champion of Ronus, and I might actually go for that. Is it tier 1? Probably not. Like, I always have to go back to that question when I'm evaluating cards. Is it tier 1? I don't think it is. But I think it's better than you might give it credit for. And I never thought I'd say that. Okay, Channeler Initiate, 1 and a green. Walk the Plank might come back if Merfolk is a smaller part of the meta. That's true. Walk the Plank could definitely be a good answer for Champion of Ronus. Channeler Initiate, 1 and a green. When Channeler Initiate enters the battlefield, put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. Remove a -1/-1 counter from Channeler Initiate. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Any color, any of them, any of the 5 colors you can add to your mana pool. Wow, that is pretty impressive. And for only 2 mana, I think this card's not bad. I think that every time that I see a Shaolin deck tech, if he is still running Drover and doesn't run Channeler Initiate, I will be pretty mad at him. I know I give him a lot of hate for running Drover in his ramp decks, but it is the only mana dork we have right now. So it's just kind of a thing that we have to deal with. But once Amonkhet rolls around, we'll actually have better mana dorks. I know Channeler Initiate is still pretty awful. The first turn it comes out, like they can easily Moment of Craving it, they can easily Lightning Strike it. They could even use Skullduggery on it if they wanted. But it can turn into a 3/4, and assuming they don't have that, you know, like this card does a great job the longer it stays out. You get to ramp, you get to get a 3/4 at the end of the deal. You would run Drover over Channeler. Let's say you're not running dinosaurs. Would you still say that? Would you still value having 1 toughness over a 0/1? I wouldn't. If you're running dinosaur ramp, I agree with you. If you're running any other kind of ramp that doesn't include dinosaurs, I think Channeler Initiate is just better. Because it's just going to grow. And it's going to be fun. I know I give a lot of shit to minus counter decks, but I think that if you're going to run the minus counter deck, not sure if I would do it in non-dinos. Yeah, in non-dinos, like, I don't know if you've seen Monk's deck text, but he likes to run Angraths and Vraskas, and most of those Planeswalkers, I guess. And I think Channeler Initiate would serve a much better purpose in those decks than Drover does, because you get to get that big body at the end of it. Like, you get to try and do that, which is fun. If you even get to do this once, it's a 1/2, right? It starts off as an 0/1. If you even get to do it once, it becomes a 1/2. Not only that, but it actually feels like it might synergize well with Phoenix. And that's kind of a scary proposition, because you'd kill their Phoenix, which would allow them to kill the hatchling or whatever that the Phoenix spawns. But it's just another thing I want to throw out there. It's still only 3 extra mana over 3 turns. You're right, but at the same time, one of the things you're trying to do with Drover is cast Phoenix on turn 3 or Angrath on turn 4. And this is a way to do it. Also, you don't have to use the extra mana every turn, you know? Like, I know it runs out after a little while. The Channeler Initiate ramping does run out after 3 uses, but it's not like you have to use the extra mana every turn. Like, you can choose not to. Seems pretty good. You could also hold open Fatal Push in a funny way. I know we don't have Fatal Push, but you could bluff and, like, get that 1 extra mana and then cast something. And I know it wouldn't be Push. Push is just the ideal example if we had access to it. I think it needs to go into a -1 counter deck. Not sure if any of them will be good enough. People are going to try. People are going to try to run it. Is it going to be good enough? I think it's one of the best cards in -1 counters, I'll say that much. I did pull this card at pre-release, actually, and had a lot of fun with it, but I know that's kind of a niche example of how good this card might be. I'm trying to think of how it works with other -1 counter cards, but I haven't played around with them much, so it's kind of tough to evaluate based on that. I know there's also cards that can remove -1 counters, and I'm not seeing them right now, but there's definitely some that we're going to be talking about that remove minus counters from cards. Oh, here we go. Hapatra's Mark. Remove all -1 counters from it instant. So there's definitely things you can do. I think you can run this outside of -1 counters decks, but there might be better options. I think this does outperform Drover, but at the same time, there still might be better things that we're going to have upcoming. I'm not sure what mana dorks we get from Hour of Devastation, but there might be some that beat both Channeler Initiate and Drover, because it's a true dedicated mana dork. But I think this over Drover in a non-Dino deck, I think that's my verdict is I would rather have Channeler Initiate. Being a rare sucks in Arena? No, that's true. Again, I am under the assumption that I'm going to have access to all the cards. I know that's obviously probably not going to be true, but just for the sake of discussion, I like to, I like to talk that way. Okay, Colossopede, 4 and a red, 5/5, insect. There you go. Crocodile of the Crossing, 3 and a green. When Crocodile of the Crossing enters the battlefield, put a -1/- counter on target creature you control. 5/4. See, this is the interesting part of Channeler Initiate, and I know -1 counters isn't that good, but you could put a -1 counter on your Channeler Initiate after you ramp out to get this out. Like, right? Doesn't that sound kind of fun? You play this on turn 2. Turn 3, you ramp out 1 extra mana. You play Crocodile of the Crossing, and you put the -1 counter on Channeler Initiate. That sounds fun. And it is something I want to play around with. Being hasty green 5/4 is great, especially if you get it out on turn 3. Imagine turn 3 swinging with a 5/4. See, I do talk a lot of crap about minus counters, but maybe that's because they're not good in Standard, right? We never see minus counters in Standard. Does that mean they're necessarily bad? Does that mean they're a bad archetype? Maybe not. They just might not be good enough to get over the hump of being Standard viable. But does that mean that it's just garbage? Possibly not. Maybe Channeler Initiate and Crocodile of the Crossing, those kind of decks might actually be fun. Not saying they're going to net you like a 60 to 70% win ratio, but will they be viable enough to play and enjoy? I think so. Based on these 2 cards alone, I think so. I didn't think so earlier, but now that I'm starting to put 2 and 2 together, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. They saw some play in Standard when they first surfaced, right? I could not tell you the answer to that, Sharda. I am not a Standard player. I only watch Standard. So you're essentially asking someone who has always been on the sidelines, watching Twitch videos of other people try to do these things. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how well they've done in Standard. That would be interesting to look into, though. Okay. Defiant Graftmaw. When Defiant Graftmaw enters the battlefield, put 2 -1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever you put 1 or more minus counters on Defiant Graftmaw, remove a -1 counter from target creature you control. This could be interesting because you can sort of stem the bleeding, and by bleeding I mean -1 counters. Like how would I put this? Like, say you're trying to make Channeler Initiate big. You can remove some of the counters from Channeler Initiate. You can just make things a little less small. I don't know if it's that good. I kind of don't like it as much as the Crocodile of the Crossing Channeler Initiate combo. This combo looks great. But Defiant Greatmaw sort of looks a little bit more meh in comparison. There is a card that I want to re-look at, though, now that we are on -1 counters. And here we go. Baleful Ammit. 2 and a black. Lifelink 4/3. When it enters the battlefield, put a -1 counter on target creature you control. So you can factor this into your Channeler Initiate game plan. And get this out on turn 3. So you wouldn't be getting it out ahead of schedule, unfortunately. It would still come out on the turn it's supposed to come out. -1 counters is bad against Harness Lightning, but we won't have that. Yeah, there's a lot of things bad against Harness Lightning. Let's just take a look real quick, because I wasn't really talking about minus counters as much when we reviewed Black, and when I did, I think I was a little bit more dismissive of it, because obviously Channeler Initiate helps a little bit. I guess there's Plague Belcher, but that really goes more into a zombie deck. You could Plague Belcher your Channeler Initiate, And I'm not saying that's the best thing in the world. Again, this is another card that does not come out ahead of schedule, so you would just slam it turn 3 and Channeler Initiate turn 2 in your curve. And it's okay. It doesn't really synergize well though because of zombies. There's also Soul Stinger. Meh. Not too impressed by the black minus counter cards. Maybe Baleful Emmet is okay, but I don't know. So let's go back to green. I just wanted to take a look at some of those real quick while we were on the topic. Dissenter's Deliverance. 1 and a green. Destroy target artifact. Cycling for 1 green. I don't think that cycling is really that great in green. If Mardu Vehicles was a thing, this might be better. But I'm kind of unimpressed with this card. Maybe you could run it sideboard against GPG or something, but not too impressed by it. Exemplar of Strength, 1 and a green. When Exemplar of Strength enters the battlefield, put 3 -1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever Exemplar of Strength attacks, remove a -1 counter from it, and if you do, you gain 1 life. This is interesting. I wasn't too impressed by this card in duels, and part of that may be because Fatal Push was very easy to hit it with. I think you need to use cards like Hippotra's Mark to really take advantage of Exemplar of Strength. But even then, you're running 1 card just so another card can truly shine, and when he's shining at his best, he's a 4/4. See, I was really excited for a moment about Channeler Initiate and Crocodile of the Crossing, but ever since I looked at all of those other minus counter cards, I may have changed my mind again. It's not awful. Like, if you can get it to go off, then sure, but turn 3, you're swinging with a 2/2, right? So you'd have to basically be on the play for this card to work. I think if you're on the draw, he's too slow. And yeah, he's just okay for me. I'm not terribly impressed. Okay. Giant Spider, 3 and a green. Reach, 2/4 Spider. Cool. Gift of Paradise, 2 and a green. Enchant land. When Gift of Paradise enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. Well, -1 counters decks is best when you have something you can shove your counters at without caring, such as a vampire token or a vampire that creates tokens and dies. I know there's that like Nest of Scarabs enchantment, which is probably gonna be used in those decks. In an ideal situation, you just give all your counters to Channeler Initiate, who gets rid of them and ramps you, but it's kind of hard to do all the time, especially when Exemplar of Strength puts 3 -1 counters, and I think by that point, Channeler of Initiate will not be a 3/4 at that point in time, as much as I wish it would be. Like, this is an early curve card, you know? Very early in the curve, so it's kind of awkward delaying your Exemplar of Strength until Channeler of Initiate becomes a 3/4, and then putting 3 -1 counters on it and it becoming an 0/1 again. Like, it takes a while before that works. Firebrand. What card is Firebrand? What card is Firebrand? Let me just look that one up real quick. Oh yes, Fanatical Firebrand. Yeah, I'm not quite sold. You are taking advantage of a card that wants to die in some cases, but I think we need something more. I think we need to be running, if we're to make minus counters to work, I think we're going to need Nest of Scarabs. because this works. Like, you can get 3 1/1s really quick. Don't apologize. I just I couldn't remember what card you were talking about. But yeah, Fanatical Firebrand. Nest of Scarabs, maybe. Like, you put 3 -1 counters, you get 3 1/1 insects. And if you had 2 Nest of Scarabs out, you'd get 6 1/1 insects. I think this is the card that I have to use in the minus counters deck. It almost feels like a must. Like, based on the other cards that I've evaluated, the deck just doesn't feel like it's good enough to go by on its own. I think this is a must needed, like, essential card. And when you're running Nest of Scarabs, let's see. Don't forget, this is on a creature, not just your own creatures, but other creatures. So you could run Cartouche of Ambition and create a insect. You could run. I'm trying to find the cards, so I do apologize. Most of these I haven't really looked at too seriously before. You could run Splendid Agony. Splendid Agony an enemy creature, and then get 2 1/1s or 4 1/1s, depending on how many Nest of Scarabs you have out. Shoutout says 1/1 vanilla tokens is not enough. I've lost to this deck in duels before. It can go off. I think it doesn't go off very frequently, but it's not like, how do I put this? I wouldn't totally dismiss it, but it's not tier 1, but I think you can make a deck around it, especially now that we have access to, potentially 4 Channeler Initiates. Zarvault says, negative counter seems like a good concept, it just seemed weak compared to other decks. You're probably right. Yeah, I do think it is weak to other decks. Hepatra is supposed to be the payoff. Yes, Hepatra is supposed to be the payoff, and we'll talk about her later. Shallon CB is now hosting my stream for 7 viewers. Thank you, Shallon. I really appreciate that. Shoutout says 1/1 vanilla tokens isn't enough, and I think I agree with you in general, but you can run a sort of off the beaten path deck that is probably not going to win you all your games, but I think you could have fun with it if we have like all the access to all of the minus counter cards, Not sure how I still had 7 viewers. Okay, I want to get into a mini rant that Shaolin brought upon me, and I feel like I need to defend myself, and he already knows what's coming. You don't need to even ask Shaolin what's coming. So, he said that, and I know he's taken his opinion back, so don't hate on him for this too much. He has backpedaled since he made this statement. But he said that Gruul Monsters was kind of meh, and that I was considering it too much into my set review, and it was affecting my opinion of certain cards. And I gotta disagree with you, Monk. I gotta disagree with you. You gotta think that in Arena, we're gonna have a Scarab God, and that's cool and all, but you know what Scarab God doesn't have? It doesn't have Torrential Gearhulk. It doesn't have Energy. It doesn't have Walking Ballista. It doesn't have Gifted Aetherborn. We do get Hostage Taker, and we do get Champion of Wits and Chupacabra. But let's take a look at this red-green energy list. Well, I'm not actually going to pull it up. But the red-green energy list that we have, we can actually replicate it exactly, minus like 1 card. Minus 1 card. We can exactly replicate the red-green energy deck that Red-Green Monsters deck that won Memphis. So, I object, Shaolin. And I know you've taken your opinion back, but I think that Red-Green Monsters might actually be tier 1. It might be the strongest deck. Monk was maybe impaired at the time. It's okay. I've said a lot of stupid things in my life. And I know Monk did look, and he did change his opinion later, and it's okay, man. I don't want to give him too much hate. Shaolin is a good friend of mine. And I do watch his channel quite a lot, so don't give him hate. And asking Ninjo not to hype out over red-green decks is like asking ducks not to quack. Yes, amen. CGB knows full well how much I like red-green decks. And not just red-green energy. He's seen me talk about red-green monsters. He's seen me talk about red-green dinos. Like, he's seen a lot of my red-green. More than most. And I definitely do love that archetype. So I may be a little bit biased in my appreciation for red-green monsters. But I still think it's going to be tier 1. And that's not going to change. Okay. Let's get back to the review. I just needed to I needed to get that out of my system, man. I had to address something that was brought up in another stream. And if you guys have not watched Shaolin CB before or Covert Go Blue, I want to give them both shout-outs. They're both excellent streamers. And yeah, go check them out if you haven't already. Okay. Oh, one other thing I want to mention is that after I am done with Amonkhet and Hour of Devastation reviews, I do want to put up an arena meta stream where I'm going to be talking about what I think the meta is going to look like after Amonkhet and Hour of Devastation actually arrive. That's going to be about a little over a week from now, because I still need to get through Hour of Dev. So it's not gonna be anything soon, but after I'm done with these reviews, I'm going to be talking about the arena meta and what the implications of Amonkhet and Hour of Devastation are, in my personal opinion. Anyway, let's get back to reviewing. I just need to get that out of my system. Gift of Paradise, 2 and a green. Eugenides too. Shout out Eugenides. I am sorry, I forgot you were I don't know, man. I feel really bad right now. You're in the chat, and I didn't even give you a shout out. If you have not checked out Eugenides, please check out Eugenides as well. I feel really bad right now. Holy crap, man. I'm sorry, Euge. I honestly just completely blanked. I really feel like a dick right now. Yeah, if you haven't checked Eugenides out either, please check his channel out. He does do a lot of arena deck techs. And he loves Journey to Eternity, and you gotta love anyone who loves Journey to Eternity, because that is a fun card. Alright, let's get back to talking about cards. Gift of Paradise, 2 and a green. Let's see. Enchant land. When Gift of Paradise enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. Enchanted land has tap, and you add 2 mana of any one color to your mana pool. This card is fun. I need to emphasize that with just 4 words. Wait, this card is fun. Yes, 4 words. This card is fun. Is it tier 1? Probably, maybe not. But you'd be surprised. This card was being run in standard, and people were actually doing well with it. One cool thing about this card is it absolutely thrives in Zakama ramp. Now you no longer need to run weird niche red sources to burn creatures. You can just use Gift of Paradise, and it hits you with double red. Double red. Now you can burn 2 things without having to even run red in your mana base. I am so excited to build a Zakama ramp deck. You guys have no idea. And Gift of Paradise is going to be a 4 of staple in it. We're going to have access to so much red mana, so much white mana, so much green mana. I know we'll already be playing green because it fits in green, but the point is we can have access to any color. You can run Mastermind's Acquisition. You can get that black mana off of your Gift of Paradise. And I think Zakama is going to be a big thing once we get this gift out and just start ramping out with it. S-Hype gift? Oh my goodness. Shard already has a gift hype thing. I don't know if that was a command for some previous thing, but that's kind of funny. I'm guessing it's just Shard hype triggers the command and anything he types after works. But no, I'm very excited for this card. It's a better version of the current ramp enchantment we have in Arena. What's the ramp enchantment? Because I'm blanking on it right now. I could be having a brain fart, but yeah. If Zakama is anything, it's a big thing. Yes, it is a big thing. And I absolutely loved that video that CGB made me aware of this video in one of his streams where all the commentators were going absolutely crazy. Oh, yes, New Horizons. Yeah, I remember that card now. Yeah, that is a much worse version of Gift of Paradise. I think the life gain from Gift of Paradise is a lot more important than the +1 counters from New Horizon. And this does compete with it, and I think Gift of Paradise is by far the better option, though. So, I'm going to be running Gift of Paradise. And I think it's going to be fun. Just being able to burn 2 things without even having to splash them in my mana base, that sounds great. I think Zakama Ramp is going to be a real thing. If you have not seen, and I forgot his name, so I kind of apologize about that, but there was some guy who actually did do Zakama Ramp Mastermind, and he was 5-0 at one point. That guy went 5-0 with Zakama Ramp Mastermind, Gift of Paradise. There were some Fumigates and Settles in there. There were some pushes, and I know we don't have access to Fumigate or push among some other cards, but I still think that Gift of Paradise is going to be fun for us, and I'm quite excited to try it out. Okay, on to a slightly jankier card. Greater Sandworm, 5 and 2 green. Cannot be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Direfleet Poisoner cannot chump Greater Sandworm. There you go. If someone's running their Direfleet Poisoners, sideboard in your Greater Sandworms. Cycling 2. I think this card's pretty bad. I have tried janky versions of this card in my duels decks, and my version of this with duels decks ran Hopectra, it ran Greater Sandworm, it ran a lot of Cyclers, and then it would run Liliana, and it would bring these back after I cycled them, or it would run, you know, any sort of any graveyard recursion type sorceries. And I think the card's pretty bad. I'm not going to say this is tier 1 by any means. This is like tier 10. It's not tier 1, 2, or 3. It's tier 10. But it's really fun in these incredibly janky decks that don't care about how bad they are. Angry Beard says, as soon as I get in and am able to spend gems, I am spending 100 at least. So rarity I'm not too concerned with. Considering what it looks like right now, you might still be concerned about rarity. I've got maybe half of the rares in the game, or less. I'm not really that close. There's still so many rares that I want. So it's gonna be rough. I think they're gonna change the economy. I don't think we're gonna have to worry about this forever, but yeah, right now it's in a rough spot for sure. I spent almost 1,000 on Gwent, and I love Magic way more so. Hopefully you don't have to spend 1,000 on Magic to get all the cards. Imagine how feels bad, man, that would be. I don't think I could spend 1,000 on any game, but yeah, I might spend money depending on how grindy it is. Hopefully they make it a little bit better. Yeah, we don't know anything about gem stuff, and who knows, maybe Nate Price can talk about that today, but I highly doubt it. I think that Nate Price will not be talking about that today. I think Nate Price is going to give us a big fat pile and nothing. Spending 1,000 on a new set is about the baseline to have everything you could use. It was a lot less in duels. I think, like, I didn't spend too much on duels. I spent a little bit on Xbox. I spent not a dime on PC. But I think for duels, it was much better. You didn't have to spend too much money to get the cards you wanted, because the conversion rate was great. So when CGB says everything, he means everything. So you dump $1,000 and you haven't played Arena before. You haven't even opened a pack. That is what I think CGB is meaning, that you'll have all the cards, you know? So that's just $1,000 at the top of the scale. It would probably be more like 200 if you have a good collection, which is still awful. But we're in hypothetical land right now, because none of these numbers are supported by anything. We're just sort of dropping numbers, and I don't think that we're really going to know, you know? We're going to have to wait and see how they want to do it. And right now we're just sort of dropping whatever we think it might be. Ideally, I would like it to be where I have all the cards and can bank wild cards for each set. Yes, Angry Beard. That is what I want to do too. I want to own all of the cards and then grind enough so that when the next set comes out, I can just finish the next set in a timely manner. And I really hope that I can accomplish that without spending too much money. Like, say I just spend a little bit of money and I can have all the cards in the game, and then for the next set I can start stockpiling wild cards and then just sort of buy off the set with all of the grinding that I've done beforehand. That's what I used to do with duels. I would just grind enough, and when the set came out, I could just buy the set without any problems. And hopefully it's kind of like that in Arena. I would love it if it was. Okay. Yeah, Shardot wants you to set up a Discord server so that he can gain access to your emote in Discord, because apparently there's a feature, and I'm getting so off the rail by this chat. I'm sorry. As soon as I'm done with this one topic, I will get back to card reviews. I swear. I am trying to review cards here. But what Shardot is talking about is that you can make a Discord server, and he'll have access to use your Think emote just anywhere he wants, as long as he's a subscriber. And it's something that Discord and Twitch have partnered on to make that possible. It's a little confusing, and it does take a little bit of work, but I gotta show love to my subs somehow. So if Shard wants to use a Ninja Flood emote on Discord, let the guy. He's subbed to me, and I feel like he has the right to. So I would try to get that done, CGB. You gotta spread the love to your subs, you know. Anyway, that's just my take. I'm gonna get back to these reviews, and I'll try to stay a little bit more on the rails, so to speak. Definitely got derailed for like 10 minutes there. I'm sorry. This is why my streams are so long, man. Talking about Arena and talking about the economy and wild cards and emotes and Pokemon for any of you guys that watched my first set review. And Oketra cats. Like, there's been a lot of random topics that I've had. And right now, I want the topic to be about Hapatra's Mark. This is what I want the topic to be. 1 green. No, it's okay, Shard. I don't mind getting derailed. I know I say I don't like it, but it's okay. It's all good. It's all in good fun, right? Okay. Hapatra's Mark. 1 green. Instant. Target creature you control gains hexproof. Ooh. I didn't realize you could give hexproof and remove all the counters. So that makes my minus counter deck a little less janky, giving them hexproof. Say you give Exemplar of Strength hexproof and he becomes a 4/4, and you get 3 insects from it because you have the Scarab enchantment, whatever the hell it's called. I keep forgetting the name of it. But yeah, maybe that's a thing. Probably not, but hey, I want to try it. I'll at least try it before I totally dismiss it. Okay, Harvest Season. 2 and a green. Sorcery. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the number of tapped creatures you control. And put those cards onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. That is so weird. So you have to attack and then ramp? Ugh, that sounds bad. Because when you attack, your creatures become tapped, obviously. But the point that I'm trying to illustrate is that you have to spend an attack step and then ramp. Like, you have to leave yourself totally defenseless when you attack and then get lands? Is that what you want to do? I don't know, man. I think Harvest Season is a pretty awful card. Because it relies on tapped creatures. It's just such a weird requirement. And it could be a Nombo combo. Like, say you don't have any creatures out. Say they fumigated you, and you have done nothing out. Then what are you going to do with Harvest Season? Nothing. There's a card that's in Hour of Devastation that I actually want to use, and I'll go to it real quick. It's called Hour of Promise. I think you should be running Hour of Promise instead. And I'm not going to talk about that card too much because I'm talking about Amonkhet green. I'm not talking about Hour of Promise, Hour of Dev cards. So I think you run Our Promise over Harvest Season. That's my final verdict. If you tap your ramp dorks, you can ramp with it. I know that's another thing you can do, but I'm not sold. I think it's very janky. Too janky for me, and that's saying a lot. I do like me some jank. Hey, we get Fog. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. We get 2 mana Fog with cycling. Someone's gonna make this card work. I'm gonna dismiss it right now and say it's garbage, but there's gonna be some Simic mill player that loves this card and disproves me one day. But for my stream right now, if you're in Ninjo's stream, this card is garbage. Not gonna use it. Very strong words. I just totally talked shit about 2 mana Fog with cycling. Sorry, 2 mana Fog. Okay. Alright, Honored Hydra. 5 and a green. Trample and Bomb for 4. This card was pretty fun in duels. I would not go as far to say it's competitive in duels. It's not. Most of my decks that ran this card in duels would lose to Mardu vehicles. They would lose to various energy decks. It's fun. You get to ramp. You get to embalm for 4 and make a 6/6. In this current arena meta, you can use your Wild Growth, not your Wild Growth Walker, your Jade Light Ranger. You can use your Jade Light Ranger and put this into your graveyard and embalm it to make a 6/6. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe. I kind of don't think it is. Otherwise, it would be running the rounds in Standard a lot more. But I'm not going to say this card is awful. I just don't think it's tier 1 either. It's just sort of a card. And I think it works best with Explore right now. I think you need to put this into your graveyard or, get into a board state where you do actually have 6 mana open. The problem is, though, is that there's a lot of decks like Merfolk where by the time it's turn 5, they already beat you. Forget about turn 6. They've beaten you by turn 4 or 5. And Honored Hydra is just really slow and clunky when you look at those decks. And maybe it's worse than I'm even giving it credit for because of the fast decks that are out there that don't care about you trying to get your Honored Hydra value. And that might be my verdict. If you're facing Scarab God, he'll just take advantage of your Hydra by stealing it. If you're facing red-green monsters, they're just gonna fly over it with Glorybringer. If you're facing Approach of the Second Sun, they're probably just gonna have tons of answers to just kill it entirely. They'll settle it and he'll be gone for good. I don't think this card is good against any of those decks, and I'm starting to like it less and less the more I talk about it. I'm sorry, I am a Hydra fan. Hydras are generally fun Magic cards, but the more I think about this, the more I start to dislike it. Okay, Hooded Brawler, 2 and a green. When you exert Hooded Brawler and as it attacks, if you exert it, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So it's just a meh sort of card to show off the exert mechanic. Yeah, that's basically all it is. Whoa, I feel like I'm CGB right now with you guys flavor fogging me. Because I know people like to type fog in CGB's chat when ridiculous stuff happens, and that comes up. Hail Hydra. Okay. Talking about some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I guess, now. Or Captain America as another movie with Hydra. With another movie that has Hydra in it. Do you want to derail me again, Angry Beard? Do you want me to talk about Hydra for a little bit? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let you derail me. I'm above derailing now. Initiate's Companion. 1 and a green. When Initiate's Companion deals combat damage to a player, untap target creature or land. Yeah, that's garbage. I don't have much else to say about this. Wow, this thing's tiny. Look at this. This guy's feet in the background, it like doesn't even go up to his knees, and it's a 3/1. A 3/1 that's like the size of my cat? Damn. Okay, Manglehorn. 2 and a green. When Manglehorn enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact. Artifacts you control enter the battlefield tapped. I should make that a command. I'll click on it. Let's see what it is. He's going to derail us? Oh man. Sharda, could you make that a command? Is that like something that's possible? I'm not the most technically savvy Twitch person. Sweet. I love it. Thank you, CGB. That's awesome. I love Star Wars too. That's a Star Wars reference, correct? Let me just click on it again. It looks like Star Wars. Is it Star Wars? I don't know. It looks very Star Wars-esque from the background and the old 80s looking quality. Oh, it's James Bond. Okay. It's James Bond. Damn it, I was wrong. That is 007 GoldenEye, my favorite line from the movie. I'll have to look at that reference. I haven't seen that one before. Bro, cats are no joke. Mine scratched the crap out of my legs. Bled for a few days? What? Eucanides has war injuries. Confirmed. These 3-1 kitties aren't joke. You'll bleed for days. My cat scratched me, and a week later I'm still bleeding. I'm sorry, Eucanides. I just found that way funnier than I should. That's pretty funny. Okay, Manglehorn. Destroy target artifact. Artifacts, garbage. It's just a 2/2 that I guess you might sideboard against Mardu vehicles, but there's probably better answers, such as Thrashing Bronodon. Derailed, yes. Is there a way that you can put like some emotes in there? Do we have any train emotes? Like, I really want something that makes it look like I'm getting derailed, specifically with emotes. And I don't know if there's a way to adjust the comm where when you type that it would also show emotes, but just something that I would like, if that is even possible. I'm not sure. Okay, Naga Vitalist. 1 and a green. Add to your mana pool 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. So is this better than... Say you're running your ramp deck. Do you run your Channeler Initiate, or do you run your Naga Vitalist? We'll look into it. Thanks, Shard. But, I don't know. This starts off with 1 more toughness than Channeler Initiate, and you get to use this for as long as the game goes on. The one problem is you cannot add 1 mana of any color. It has to be a mana that you already have. So if you're running like a 3-color deck, it could punish you, whereas Channeler Initiate would not. And that's the big question, right? What's going to be better? Is Naga Vitalist going to be better, or is Channeler Initiate going to be better? What is our mana dork that we're going to use? I don't have the answer to that question. That is a question for you to decide. And yeah, I'm not really sure. And who knows? There might be other mana dorks that will come in Hour of Devastation that we can look at. I don't know Hour of Devastation like the back of my hand. I didn't get to play around with it in duels, so I'm a lot less familiar with the cards. I don't know if there is a good mana dork in Hour of Dev that beats both Channeler Initiate and Naga Vitalist. That is something that I will find out in due time. Okay. Oashra Cultivator, 1 green, 2 and a green, tap, sacrifice Oashra Cultivator, search your library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library, and it's an 0/3. So turn 1, if you can play this, you have a decent body that can actually block for a little bit. I would rather have an 0/4, but an 0/3 is by no means terribly small. You'd rather have Vitalist because no one wants to use their rares on a mana dork. That's a good point, Eucanides, but I am under the assumption, and I've said this before, I'm under the assumption that we're going to have all the cards, and I know that's probably not going to be true. But I just want to frame it that way so that we can have more of an honest discussion of which cards we like more. And you can't have an honest discussion if you're just saying, like, oh, rares, you know, we gotta spend rares on that. That doesn't mean that Naga Vitalist is better. I want to know which is better. And the way to do that is to just pretend that that we do have all the cards. And I know that we don't, but it's just sort of the way I'm trying to frame things, to have an honest look of which card is better. Don't be sorry for it, though, because I get it. The economy is rough. And, you probably are going to spend your commons on Naga Vitalist as a result of that. But for purposes of discussion, I want to honestly look at cards and try and figure out which ones that we like more. So going back to Oreshra, Cultivator, I think it's a garbage card. The fact that you have to spend 3 mana just to use this just feels kind of bad. I know that you can chump and then ramp, so maybe that's a thing. Like, you play this, and then on turn 3 they're attacking. You throw this in front of something, and you get a land. At the same time, would you rather not just use Thematic Compass? And for any of you that are not familiar, I'll just pull Thematic Compass out real quick. Let's see if I can find it. Is Thematic Compass not in... Oh, it's a double face card. That's right. Okay. Thematic Compass. So this, for 3 mana and tap, you can search your library for a land rather than just sack something. And I think Thematic Compass outperforms Oreshra Cultivator through the fact that it can get lands over multiple turns, and when it does flip, you have a great card that can essentially eliminate their best attacker each combat step and remove it from combat. I think I just like Thematic Compass a lot more than I like Oreshra Cultivator. And it's going to be hard changing my mind on that one. Okay. Ornery Kudu, 2 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, put a -1 counter on target creature you control. So it's just kind of meh. Just sort of some vanilla card that shows off the -1 sort of theme. Pouncing Cheetah, 2 and a green. Flash, 3/2. Still kind of garbage. One thing that I have noticed in Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan is that we do not have access to many good 3 mana creature spells. There's a lot of good 4 mana creatures that I can think of, but across most of the colors, 3 mana cards are bad. I'm not saying this card is good. I'm just saying it's a symptom of Arena right now, is that we do need some better 3 mana cards, and we're going to be talking about Ronus later, who's a great 3 mana card. But yeah, this card I also think is bad. Cat Tribal Hype, no. When I talk Cat Tribal Hype, I talk about Sacred Kitty, and I talk about, man, I can't even remember the name. Crap. Let me just find it real quick. Let's see. It's the Cat Maker. You guys know who I'm talking about. Let's see. Regal Carousel. There we go. I talk about Regal Carousel. I do not talk about Ornery Kudu or whatever. It is not something I talk about. Or Pouncing Cheetah. Ornery Kudu was the antelope. Prowling Serpapod, though. Here's a cat that you might want to use. I know that it's not Carousel. Carousel. What's Carousel? It is a call. Oh, Caracol. Okay, fair enough. Look, I am not the best person with pronunciation. I try my best. Caracol? Okay. I guess I learn something new every day. CGB dropping some grammar Nazi pronunciation on me. Yeah, I didn't know that. It's good to know. Alright, Prowling Serpapod. Serpopard. I'm gonna have to pronounce everything perfectly now in this stream. Perfectly, no mistakes. Can't be countered. Creature spells you control can't be countered. 4/3. I remember when people were reviewing this set before Amonkhet came around, the general consensus was that you would sideboard this in against control. It is honestly just that one card that bugs me. Caracol. I'm probably going to forget that, and you're going to have to flame me some more for it, but no worries, right? No hate. Alright. This is such a weird card, though. Like, you have your cat snake tribal. Not just a cat, it's also a snake. But Yeah, I remember people were saying they wanted to sideboard this card, and my question is, did it actually make sideboards? And I don't think it did. Like, based on what I've seen from Standard and most of the decks that run green, I don't remember seeing Prowling Serpapard even being used in the sideboard. So it might just be a junk card that you think is good, but that they just use a removal spell on, you know? You just play this and you think, oh great, now they can't counter my things, but they just kill it with something, and then they can counter their things. So it's probably not that good. Even sideboard, I don't think it might be that good, because rather than run Prowling Serpapard sideboard, why not just run Carnage Tyrant? That already can't be countered, and it has hexproof. I think Prowling Serpapard isn't good. Carnage Tyrant, yeah, it seems like Sharda is agreeing. Much better in the sideboard. I mispronounced 3/4 of all cards, I'm sure. Ouch. I'd like to think that I have an above 50% ratio of my card pronunciation, such as Quarry Hauler. Did I pronounce that one right? 3 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, for each kind of counter on target permanent, put another counter of that kind. So I guess snakes, you could run this in snakes that we don't have access to. You could run it with a planeswalker and get an ultimate a little faster. But in general, I think this card's just awful. If you had a -1 counter, you could put another -1 counter. I didn't pronounce Honored Hydra right. How did I not pronounce Honored Hydra right? It's just Honored. Or do you say Honored? Is it honored or honored, you know? I think that just comes down to how you pronounce things. I don't think either one is wrong. Yeah, hits Hano Red Hydra. Yeah, I think Shard's got it. It's Hano Red, because you use it in your Hano Green deck. Okay, here's a fun card for you guys. Ronus the Indomitable. 2 and a green. Death Touch, Indestructible. Ronus. Okay, here's another one, by the way. Here is a card. Derail, I know. Some people, I've heard, and I can't put names on anyone, but I've heard some people call it Ronas. They're like, oh, let's just play our Ronas, the Indomitable. I call it Ronus. Is this a card pronunciation review? Apparently, Omega Bees. Apparently, this is what my stream is being turned into. I'm being sabotaged from the inside, and the sabotagers have put their grammar Nazi pronunciation things that be in play. I'm punting him next pronunciation. Oh god. But okay, I call it Ronus. I don't call it Ronas. I'm sorry. I think Ronus just is a lot cooler to say. It's Ronus. Ronus the Indomitable. Death Touch, Indestructible. Can't attack or block unless you control another creature with power 4 or greater. 2 and a green. Another creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. This card's awesome. It fits right into my red-green Monsters brew. I'm talking to you, Shaolin. My red-green Monsters brew that I am playing in Arena. And here's the thing. There's a lot of cards that allow Ronus to attack. There's Glorybringer. There's Rekindling Phoenix. There's Jade Light Ranger, assuming you don't whiff. Well, assuming you hit 2 permanents. I would not say that getting a free land is a whiff. I think that's pretty cool. But there's a lot of cards that Ronus can just instantly attack with, as long as those cards are on board. And I think Ronus is going to be great. I was super hyped for him before it came into Arena, and before it came into Duels, and I'm super hyped for him before he comes into Arena. I think he's going to fit right into my red-green Monsters deck. Just giving trample to anything, and most of the time I feel like he's going to be able to attack, because there's a lot of big creatures in red-green Monsters that Ronus fits right in with. Okay, onto a slightly jankier card, Sandworm Convergence. 6 and 2 green. Creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of your end step, create a 5/5 green worm creature token. This card's not. It's very hard to. I kind of want to say it's bad. And I know I love jank, but there's a lot of enchantment removal going around with Brontodon in the format. I I think Brontoton is just gonna be using himself to destroy this. I think Ixalan's Binding is gonna hit this. I think there's a lot of cards that are just gonna be shutting down Sandworm Convergence. I know, so Convergence is sweet. If you can get a couple turns where it starts making 5/5 worms, great. But I think there's a lot of enchantment removal that's already being used. Ninja lost his Johnny. We ruined this young man. I don't know. I feel like it's just gonna be too easy to answer. Like, I've been watching GP Memphis, and the amount of times that I've seen a cast out or an Ixalan's Binding or just any enchantment removal sideboard, I don't think Sandworm is gonna be that great in the meta. Am I gonna run it in Jank Brews? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, I'm gonna run Sandworm Convergence in my Jank Brews. Did I not just talk about how much I love Gift of Paradise? I think Sandworm Convergence will work well with your Gift of Paradise deck. I just think it's really janky, and it's not gonna be something that I'm gonna be trying to grind any ladders with to win. But if there's a casual queue, I'm definitely gonna jump right on that and start throwing Sandworm Convergence out, making all the worms I can. But I feel like there's more answers that are gonna hit it in this format. Because Thrashing Bronodon's pretty popular. Ixalan's Binding, from my experience, has been pretty popular. And both of those cards just shut this down for a lot less mana, too. Like, I'm spending 4 mana to take down 8 mana if I use Bronodon or if I use Ixalan's Binding. Rip Suntail. Oh, I'm sorry for all you Suntail fans. Yeah, I know. The Suntail Hawk Squadron was looking devastating for a short time, but not anymore. Sandworm Convergence. Okay. Scaled Behemoth. Suntail is the true enemy, yes. Shaolin says Ixalan's Binding and Cast Out will be used earlier. Maybe. That's your argument, that they're going to just cast out something else, or Ixalan's Binding something else. You got to show them a lot of win cons. And from my experience, Sandworm Convergence just ramps to Sandworm Convergence and other big things. I don't know. I'm not quite sold, Monk. I'm sorry. Because I know it's fun. I know I'm hurting a lot of people when I say I don't like this card. But in the Jank Brews, maybe. It's perhaps Behemoth. Is that just the European pronunciation? Behemoth? Really? Behemoth? Scaled Behemoth? I don't know, man. Don't hate. Don't hate if I say Behemoth. 4 and 2 green, Crocodile, 6/7 hexproof. This card's garbage. We have Carnage Tyrant. I do want to talk about one thing that I have done with this card, though. I was at pre-release, and I had some garbage pulls, and Scaled Behemoth was one of the contenders for my best cards that I actually pulled, because that's how bad my pulls were. I had to rely on a Scaled Behemoth at pre-release. But I was able to do one thing with it that made it quite fun. Cartouche of Solidarity gives first strike to your hexproof creature. And we're officially in Janktown when I talk about things like this. But I guess you could Cartouche of Solidarity, your Carnage Tyrant, give it first strike. And that could be fun. And that's something that I did in pre-release, except it was with Scaled Behemoth. But yeah, you just don't play this card over Carnage Tyrant. Okay. Shed Weakness. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You remove a -1 counter from it, and it's an instant. Why don't you just run Blossoming Defense? The answer is because Blossoming Defense will not be in Arena, but no, I don't think Shed Weakness is that good. It's interesting, though, because you have to compare Shed Weakness, and you have to compare Hapatra's Mark. Hapatra's Mark gives hexproof and removes all the -1 counters. This just gives it +2/+2. I think Hapatra's Mark is a little better, but I think both are ultimately not that great. Okay. Omega Bees has requested a bad joke. Someone call Eugenides. Oh man, do we really have to just grill? I feel bad roasting people, you know? Roasting Eugenides for bad jokes. Feels bad, man. Alright. Chefet Monitor, 5 and a green. Cycling, 3 and a green. When you cycle Chefet Monitor, you may search your library for a basic land or desert card, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle your library. He likes it. Alright. This is weird. This card, because roasting equals affection. Sometimes. It depends on the person, right? Like, you can roast someone and they'll be like, ah, yeah, that's funny. And then you roast one guy and they just get mortified. And they're like, what are you doing? You know, it's really something that depends on the person. The best jokes are bad jokes. How about roasting equals attention? Fair enough. But Chefet Monitor, I think it's not awful because you do actually get to ramp with it. Like, you cycle it, you get a land, and you draw a card. You know? Like, imagine if we had a 4-mana sorcery where it searches your library for a basic land or desert, and then you also draw a card. I know that still is pretty bad, but it can also be a 6/5. It has a lot of multi-purpose, this card. Like, it's probably bad. It's probably pretty awful, but I find it interesting. The fact that you can ramp with it. But it does probably get outclassed by Gift of Paradise, if you ask me. Maybe you can run both. Maybe you can run Gift of Paradise alongside your Chefet Monitor and just get a lot of land out quickly, and then play Zakama and end the game. Or play Sandworm Convergence and hope they, don't have those answers. But yeah, it's still not amazing, but I think this is probably the best cycle card that we have in green. I think that's a fair thing to say, because I don't know if we've had any cycling. Here, hang on a second. Have we had any cycling in green? Yes, we've had Greater Sandworm. We've had Dissenter's Deliverance. So I know it's a small competition. It's a competition between 3 cards, but I think Chefet Monitor wins the competition. For green cycling. It can even make bad cards decent and make decent cards good and make good cards great. That is true, Sharda. And that's why I have trouble evaluating cycle cards, because you have to evaluate cycle cards differently. Because a 6/5 for 6 is awful. We can all agree that a 6/5 for 5, vanilla as fuck, is awful. But when you add cycling to it and you add this effect that gives you ramp, it sort of turns into this different discussion where you're not really sure, you know? I think it's a card that you have to play with and form your opinion on. And I'm going to try it. I definitely want to try this, see if ramping with Chefet Monitor and Gift of Paradise is indeed something I can go for. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. We'll see. Only time will tell. Sixth Sense. 1 green, enchanted creature has, whenever you deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. That is an interesting card, Sixth Sense. Man, my pronunciation, ever since CGB, dropped some pronunciation on me. It's gone down the drain. So I want to go to a card from Rivals of Ixalan as I am reviewing this card, and it is called Curious Obsession. So, what would you rather have? Would you rather have +1 and draw a card whenever it deals combat damage to a player, and you'd have to sack it on your end step if you didn't attack with a creature this turn? Or would you rather have something that does not give the +1 counter to the creature? I think I'd rather have Curious Obsession. Because Curious Obsession works well with unblockable merfolk that already can't be blocked. It works well with flyers, and it gives you that +1 counter. Both of them would get 2 for 1, right? Both of them get 2 for 1 if they kill your Sixth Sense or your Curious Obsession guy right on the start of when you get that enchantment down. But at least with Curious Obsession, you get +1/+1, and we already have a lot of unblockable cards in this format, where Curious Obsession seems pretty good. The one redeeming quality of Sixth Sense is that I guess you could enchant your Ghalta and give your Ghalta unblockable. Is that a thing? Is ramping to Ghalta and giving Ghalta Sixth Sense? Maybe Carny T would be better. Maybe giving it to Carnage Tyrant would be easier because they can't interact with Carnage Tyrant as much, but it sounds pretty janky. It's probably not good. These are just brainstorming ideas of why you would use Sixth Sense over Curious Obsession. Okay, Spidery Grasp, instant 2 and a green. Untap target creature. It gets +2/+4 until end of turn. Pretty garbage. Just another, pump spell that we get to never play with because we're not going to play around with that pump spell. Unless you want to spend 3 mana to give something reach, I will not be doing that. There's better pump spells for less mana, I think. And I'm just not going to play with Spidery Grasp. The art's kind of cool, though. Look at this spider, dude. Imagine how terrifying that would be, just seeing a spider this large. My goodness. Stinging Shot. Put 3 -1 counters on target creature with flying, cycling 2. Maybe sideboard, but it's not that good. One thing that green does struggle with, and this is just something that's been a staple of Magic, is that green normally struggles with flyers, unless you have reach, which reach is a pretty uncommon keyword. Who's streaming after Mega Bees? Everyone's asking who's streaming after. Shardot was asking who's streaming after in Shaolin's stream, and now Omega Bees is asking it in my stream. I'm gonna have to ask it if CGB streams. I'm gonna have to ask who's streaming after. I don't know, Omega Bees. I don't have the answer for you. Stinging Shot, maybe sideboardable against. There you go, CGB, and then I'll have to ask if Nate Price is streaming in his chat. At some point, CGB, during your stream, I'm going to ask, is Nate Price streaming today? And you'll have an answer for it. You have to think of something. And then I'll just hit you with the I don't even say that comment, so the line that you prepared never even comes into play. Anyway, let's get on the rails again. Let's properly rail ourselves. The answer is sweater, fair enough. Stinging Shot, maybe sideboardable. I don't think flyers, well, no, flyers are actually not bad when you consider Glorybringer and Rekindling Phoenix in red-green monsters. But this is a sideboard card, and it's always going to be a sideboard card. Even with cycling, I feel like it's a sideboard card. Even if you do throw this away and want to draw a card, like we don't have a green cycling deck, They're all in cahoots. Yes, when you start streaming, Eugenides, I'm gonna have to ask who's streaming. We'll have to stream 24/7 chain streams. Oh my god. Imagine how much work that would be between 4 people. That would be a commitment. Not one that I'm prepared to undertake. I'm sorry if that's something you guys have been planning to do chain streams, but that's a lot of work. You'd have to be very active. I stream about maybe an hour and a half a day, and I'm proud of that, and I know that's not even that much. But yeah, Synchronized Strike, 2 and a green, instant. Untap up to 2 target creatures. They each get +2/+2 until end of turn. It's another Spidery Grasp. That's all this is just bad pump spells for green. We always get these. Every set they give us these big, funny pump spells that no one uses. Alright, Trial of Strength, 2 and a green. When Trial of Strength enters the battlefield, create a 4/2 green beast. When a cartouche enters the battlefield, return Trial of Strength to its owner's hand. I think this card's pretty garbage. I'm just not a big fan of trials and cartouches in general. I know that some people have managed to use them to some effect, but those decks are very tailored to make it work. In this deck, I just can't see a Trial of Strength deck very easily. I think it's going to get 2-for-1'd. And I've always kind of been skeptical of trials and cartouches because of that. The one exception being The one exception of that rule would be the black Trial of Ambition, or is it the Cartouche of Ambition? The black Cartouche of Ambition is pretty good, especially sideboard, and the blue Cartouche of Knowledge is also pretty good, but those decks don't even rely on trials, you know? Those decks literally rely on the Cartouche, and they say fuck the trial. And I think that if you're going for trial Cartouche decks, normally they're just pretty bad. I just talked about my Cartouche doing work. That was pre-release, Shaolin. That was pre-release. I'm talking standard. I'm talking arena. Yes, I will concede, though. I will concede that if you're in pre-release, if you're in draft, certain cards can get a lot better, you know? But I think that Trial of Strength is pretty meh, generally speaking. And the only cards that I really like are the Cartouches, and that's like not even splashing the Trials. That's just because they work in a pummeler deck, if we're talking Cartouche of Knowledge. And I guess there's the white trial though that Sam Black uses, and I have to tip the hat to him because he was able to make it work, and that is impressive. I gotta tip the hat to him, you know. All right, Vizier of, how am I gonna pronounce this one? We're in a stream where I have to pronounce everything correctly. How the fuck am I gonna pronounce that? All right, guys, here goes nothing. Vizier of Menagerie. Can I just call it Vizier of Management? Because it kind of looks like manage. Like, how the hell? Like, come on. Do you guys really expect me to be able to pronounce that? There's no way I can pronounce that properly. You may look at the top card of your library. You may cast the top card of your library if it is a creature card. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any type. Wow. Menagerie. Oof. I'm not even gonna try. Punt me all you like, Shaolin. Punt me all you like. I am never gonna get this card right. I'd have to hear someone else say it. Like, it's hard to just pronounce something unless you actually hear it being spoken to you. But yeah, I'm not a big fan. I'm sorry, I am a big fan. I'm not a big fan of having to pronounce cards right. That's what I'm not a big fan of. I actually like this card a lot. No, I don't really play WoW that much. I did play WoW a little bit, and I talked to Shaolin about that briefly in one of his streams, but I'm not a big WoW player. But yeah, looking at the top card of your library, that's pretty sweet. The card advantage you can get with this Vizier is like insane. Because say you have multiple creatures. You can have like 3 creatures on the top of your library. You could cast 3 creatures all off the top and spend any mana to do so. Wow. This card could be bad, but I really like it on the surface. Just the card advantage that you get. Like, that's part of what makes Hydra, Torture of Defiance, so good, is when you +1 and you hit something that you want to cast, you know? And this guy could be good for the same reason. Like, you just see something you want to cast and you cast it. And if you have enough mana out, you could do that multiple turns. You could cast multiple things. His body size isn't bad, 3/4. That survives a lot. I actually like him. He could be janky. I haven't really seen him ever before in like competitive standard or anything, but when I look at him, I see a pretty decent card. And yeah, I'd be excited to try him out. He might just die to Vraska's Contempt or what have you, but hey, I want to try it out. What can I say? Alright, Watchful Naga. Card seems slow as hell. Yeah, you do need to get into the board state with a ton of mana open. And maybe you're right. Maybe that's why it doesn't make the rounds. But here's the thing. Do you need 8 mana to make it work? What if you just cast it and you get to untap with it? And I know that's a lot to ask to untap with the card, which is why it's probably not competitively viable. But say you untap with it. You don't need 8 mana to work with it once you untap. Then you can, like, you know, cast whatever you want. Assuming you have a creature on top. Which is a big assumption to make. You have to assume that you get the creatures on top and then you get the value. So it would have to go in a creature-heavy deck. It's interesting. I don't want to dismiss it totally, but you are kind of tilting the scale when you talk about things like this. When I start to think about it more, it does make me like it a little bit less, but before I start to hate it, I want to just say that I want to try it out. The more I think about it, the worse it gets. It's awful. Alright. Watchful Naga, 2 and a green. You may exert Watchful Naga as it attacks. When you do, draw a card. It's just a 2/2 that can draw you a card. I'm not impressed by this. Walking dog, eating lunch, streaming. When those things are done, have fun. See you soon. Alright, hope you enjoyed green. Take care, CGB. Alright, Watchful Naga, my verdict on this card is that it's just not that good. I feel like it's just a lot to do to draw one card. Okay. Mouths to Feed. This is a card that I was kind of excited about in duels before it came out, but it turned out to not work as well as people wanted it to. Create a 3/3 green hippo creature token. You get to make a hippo deck with it. I think this might be the only hippo that we have. There's probably a few others, but alright, draw a card for each creature you control with power 3 or greater. I think this card's pretty bad. And I say this because of experience. I say this because I tried to run this card, and in a lot of board states, it turned out that I wasn't really drawing as much as I was hoping I would draw. And I think the reason for that is because generally in most board states, the person on the other side of the table from you runs some amount of removal, and they can try to trade with your creatures, and you just get into these board states where you only have maybe like 1 to 3 creatures out, and I think it might be a win more card, because assuming you have like 5 or 10 creatures out, you're probably already in a great board state anyway. The only exception of that being in a Dino Mare match, where both players have like 10 dinosaurs out and they can't really do anything. But with that exception, I think that most of the time, Mouths to Feed is just going to be a bad card, and you're not going to live the dream as much as you want to. And yeah, that's pretty much my verdict for it. I don't think I'm going to be playing around with this one. And yeah, that's going to do it for green. Tomorrow on Thursday, we are going to be reviewing all of the multicolored gold cards. And we're also going to be reviewing artifacts. And lastly, we're going to review lands, all in the same stream. So it could turn into a lengthier stream, although there's a little bit less to review, probably, for each category. But yeah, I'm going to fit all of that into one stream, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I will be streaming again tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check out CGB's stream. I know he's going to be going live. And check out Nate Price. Hopefully he has something good to say. I kind of doubt it, but we'll see. Anyway, take care. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.